Hello everyone, this is Polaris, Cereality here, whatever you want to call me. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a tutorial here just for new players who are thinking about picking up the game and they don't really know what they're supposed to do and all that, and especially in terms of PvP combat. I have made videos like this in the past, but I want to make a new one just because I realize things have changed since then, and things are going to change actually very soon potentially, so I'll probably have to make another one maybe. But this is just for new players who are interested in picking up the game, and or for players who are new and who have been playing the game more recently and still don't know what they're doing. This could also be helpful for them. And so we're just going to cover very basic universal stuff that is true for most, if not all, the karmas. I won't be going into many karma specific things, a few things that will be karma specific, but generally I'll be doing some mostly universal stuff because this is more of a basic tutorial. So first let's start with commands. So generally for all karmas you have a left click and a right click. Okay, you don't really have anything else. There's not really any other commands. There are like combinations where you can do like a left click into a right click and stuff like that, and I call them strings or command strings. And generally, again, for your left clicks, for most if not all karmas, you have a left click, left click, left click. And for sword, you can hold it, or you don't have to. You can just do the third one and kind of just release it immediately, but you can hold that one. Most karmas do have a hold command, not all of them do. For example, shield does not have a hold command, neither does scythe. So you will just do, in their case, I think it's like 4 LMBs or 3 LMBs. The LMB count can differ, so actually, for example, if I can go to fist, again, sword is 3 LMBs, it's 3 left clicks. Again, 1, 2, 3. But for fist, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, you can do the final hit, or after the third, you can hold LMB, stuff like that. Again, though, I would recommend, aside from me explaining this, to check the command list for your specific karma. Again, you can see most of the commands on the side right here. As you can see, if I change the sword, it changes the commands on the side. But yeah, so do keep that in mind. Now, generally, also, more basic universal commands. Most, if not all, karmas have a left click, right click. And this is a launcher combo, or a launcher command string. And we'll get into the usage of that later. Also, a lot of karmas, not all of them, but a lot of them do have a left click, right click combo. So in this case, left click, and another right click. For some karmas, it's more useful than others. And generally, you'll note that these right clicks will generally give you more endurance. As you can see, my purple bar at the bottom actually goes up during the right clicks, but generally stays the same during left clicks. So that is something to keep in mind. Also, this is 100% universal. You can do a dash by double tapping in any direction, right? So DD, AA, SS, WW. Or if you're using a controller, I think you can still double tap in any direction on the left analog stick. And if you do a left click during this dash, you'll see I do this little launcher. And again, you can hold during your dash to keep dashing. And you'll do this little launch attack. And this, as you can see, lifts enemies up into the air. This is a very important move, and I'll get more into it later on. Also universal, you have a shift attack. You can do, or a dodge attack, whatever you want to call it. If you hit shift on your keyboard, you will do a dodge. This is universal for all karmas, although some of them have special dodges. But generally, as soon as you do a shift, if you left click, especially towards the end of the animation, you will do a dodge attack. Most, if not all, dodge attacks go into your LMBs. So for example, I can do sword spin this way by left click, and do this. Another left click, and then, or I could do shift, left click, hold left click. It's the same exact thing, it's just doing it from a shift attack. So it's like your shift attack. This is basically the same thing as this if you were to do it from the command list level. They both enter the same command. So I could do like LRR that way, or I could do it from shift attack into the RMB, just like that. Now also, what's fairly useful, especially for breakers, is that you have, again, what makes a breaker is that they do high break. They get rid of endurance faster than other karmas. They have, most of them have a high break move or high break command attached to the right click. Generally, again, you can kind of say like left clicks are their light attacks and right clicks are like heavy attacks. You can kind of see this when doing L, R, 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 right? Like those right clicks are definitely a lot heavier attacks. And so if I start holding down right click, I start charging up a move. And if I release it at full charge, it does this like really high break move that has quite a bit of range in front of me. And I can even, if I charge it up all the way, and I release it, and then I right click again, and hold down right click, I can charge it again for a second stage, and then do this huge move. And this move does like an insane amount of break. And many breakers do have really high break commands attached to their right clicks. Again, Sword has that, Fist has a punch combo, which you can kind of see me do here. So you can either do like a charge, or you can do this punch combo by left clicking. And this does a lot of break and has a decent amount of range, as you can see. Or again, I can just charge up and release and do like this little charge, which also does high break. Hammer has hammer flip, and Scythe and Shield are really the only ones that get a little bit more weird. But generally, the first three breakers, Sword, Fist, and Hammer, have stuff like that. And in terms of range karmas, or slayers in general, so let's go to slayers. Again, I'm just showing with sword and bow because these are the two karmas you start with, especially when doing the tutorials and all that stuff. You always start with this karma, or these two karmas. So very similar. Slayers, for the most part, are very similar to breakers in terms of their commands, right? You still have a left click, third left click, and you can hold it this one. So you don't have to, but you can. And again, you can hold it for a long time, a short time, whatever. They also generally have a left click, right click, which launches the enemies. They also, a lot of them have an LRR, very similar to the breakers, right? And that one launches on bow. Not all of them launch, but some of them do. Generally, also LRRs on most karmas are very mobile, but especially slayers. DS, bow, and orb can move around during theirs, so that's something to note. Also, again, slayers all have dash attacks, or WWLMBs. Just do a dash, left click, and you will get this. As you can see, it takes quite a few to actually break the opponent because, again, slayers don't deal much break, so it takes a lot of these to actually get them to launch. But there you can see it. Whereas if I'm with sword, I can just launch them like that. Also, again, bow and other slayers all have shift attacks, just like that. And again, just like breakers, I can go into moves like this, either by left click, right click, or I can do shift attack, right click, right click. Again, shift attack goes into the same commands, so just keep that in mind. And then, kind of similar to breakers, but still different, is most slayers have holding right clicks as well. Generally, these obviously somewhat do more break, but they also just do more damage, is what they're really known for. So these commands do a lot more damage. So if I right click on bow, I get this little reticle, and as you can see, it kind of locks on. You see that red triangle on the enemy? That means they're in the reticle, and this will auto lock on them. And if I hold down left click now, I will start charging a bow shot, and I can release it by releasing left click, and it'll do a lot of damage, around 2k. I can even follow it up with like another left click shot if I fully charge it like that. Or if I fully charge the first time, I can double tap in any direction and get an even more charge. And you can see this does a lot more damage once I fully charge this. Yeah, it does 5k damage. A lot more. Obviously it takes a lot of time to get there, but it does a lot of damage. So, generally, right clicks on Slayer karmas will be doing a lot more damage, whereas the breakers will do a lot more break. And now let's get into some special commands. So this is kind of where we get some karma specific stuff, just because there are special commands for some karmas that I want you to be aware of, especially if you like cannon or scythe. Cannon, as you can see at the bottom right above my endurance bar, I just got a bunch of these little blue rectangles, and these are your ammunition. Basically, they're your ammo. Every time you do a move that requires ammo, it will consume it. So if I do a right click on cannon, which these consume ammo, you can see it go down. If I keep mashing right click, do more like that. And as you can see now, I can't use, I can't fire anymore. But I can now reload. So if I hold down right click, right, so I can tap right click to fire a rocket, but I can hold right click and I can start reloading my ammunition. I can either do it while moving, or I don't have to. I can stand still and reload. And that'll reload your ammunition, so you can use it again. And in case of cannon, all your skills require ammunition, so you can't use your skills if you don't have any ammo. But your ammunition also allows you to use skills multiple times. So for example, I could use Mistrap just by hitting R, and this is a cast skill, which I'll get into later, and I can left click, just like that, and I can cast it once. But if I do R, and I left click, and then I hold right click, it allows me to shoot another one. And I can left click, keep holding down right click, and I can left click again, and I can use a total of 3 times. Some of them require you to hold right click and then hit left click, other ones are just right click. So for example, slug shot, I can just use it once like this, or I can use it once by hitting F, and then I right click again, and then I right click again, and I do 2 more shots. As you can see though, they all use ammunition at the bottom. So that's something to keep in mind for cannon, and scythe is the only other one that really has a special unique kind of system. It's your demons, I guess. I don't really know what they call it. You get these simply by just hitting the opponent. So if I hit the opponent, regardless of whether it breaks them or not, I get my bar back. You get 1 bar for every single hit you do. So for example, if I go back and I do 1 hit, this does a lot. And there we go, now I'm back at 5. And now you can use your right click. So your right click will engage in a 4-hit string. So if you right click 4 times in a row, you'll engage in a 4-hit command, or a 4-hit command string. So for example, here it is here, and it even knocks knocks the enemy to you, which can allow you to pick up afterwards. And as you can see, I can't use it when I'm not, having the bars. So you do need the bars. And also what can be noted is you can use these in the air as well. So you get 3 RMBs in the air. Although you do need, I think, all of your bars in order to use in the air. Yeah. So you can use stuff like that as well. And that's basically it for scythe. And also, I did actually forget about this, but all karmas have air attacks as well. So if you jump with spacebar, you can engage in left clicks in the air. Some karmas have special unique commands where they can right click instead. So bow in this case, you can either do holding LMB, or you can just do 3 LMBs and do a backflip shot like that. Again, some karmas have more specific stuff, like I showed you with scythe, you can use a right click in the air if you have demons ready, or you can just do left clicks. You can do left click, right click, and kind of refresh and do all that. So that is some stuff to know about. And now let's get into your normal skills. Alright, so as you can see on sword, E, R, and F, I have 3 different skills. These are the default skill keys, by the way. E, R, and F, you can remap them though. And you can move skills to whatever you feel is most comfortable. But there are generally like 3 main types of skills I guess I want to talk about. So the first type I call quick activation skills. These are skills where once you hit the skill key, it will do the skill for you. Like that's just it. Like it will activate the skill for you. So in the case of my F key, as you can see, I have the skill stun hit. If I activate F, it'll just immediately swing out the move. There's not much else I have to do. I just hit the skill and it stuns them, it swings them, swings your sword and stuns them. It's that simple. But then there's a skill, like the skill on my E skill, or E key, rather, called leap. So if I hit E now, I didn't actually do anything in particular, like I just have a circle out and I can like move it and all that. We call these usually cast skills, and so now I get this little circle, and if I left click now, wherever the circle is, I will leap to it. Generally, a lot more slayers have these types of skills, especially ranged slayers will generally have a lot of skills like this. So, for example, bow, I have a skill attached to my E called Raining Arrow, which summons this little circle. And again, I have pretty decent range with it, and if I just left click anywhere, or where the circle is, it will then launch an attack at that range, or into that circle, generally speaking. So, those are the first 2 types of skills usually, and then we have a third one which aren't as common. Generally, it's quick activation and cast skills. The third type is, they are technically, could be classified as quick activation skills, but what makes them different, in my opinion, is that they are buff skills basically. You activate them and they give you a buff. There aren't many in the game. I'd argue there's about like 3 skills. I think there's one on orb, one on shield, one on, I guess a DS has one as well, so maybe 4. And then, of course, Sword has one, which I have on my R key. Activates a skill called Fortitude, and just hit R, can activate it, and it increases my movement speed and my endurance, as you can see at the bottom. And so, these are skills that you can just kind of use at any time during your combos and stuff like that. So it is something to be aware of. And you can know, right, so you can, as I just said, you can use these skills during your combos. So as you can see, anytime the skills glow blue, you can use them. So I can use it just like that in a combo, and then I can go on a leap or something. And I can then just like use Fortitude here, and go back into Sword Spin. I can do stuff like that. So as long as the skill is blue, you can use it. Which also brings me to some of these skills you can use in the air, right? So if I jump, you can see that when some of my skills, like my E and F skill, they go red. That means you can't use them. But my R skill is still blue when I'm in the air. That means I can activate Fortitude in the air, like that, which can also be useful in some cases. So that is something to keep in mind with those skills. And now let's go to rage skills. Alright, so if I hit B to refill my resource, I get this little aura around me. You kind of see these like flames and this like kind of orangish aura. That means I have rage. When I'm in rage, it increases your mana and stamina regen, I think. It might increase your movement speed, but I'm not too sure about that one. But it also gives you, more importantly, access to your rage skill, which you can see that big icon in the bottom left with highlighted by the Q key. That is the default key for rage skills. And again, you can get rage actually just by attacking. You can kind of see it fills up very slowly. Or by getting attacked, which generally will give you a lot more. As you can see, it's building up a lot more from me taking damage than dealing damage. So you'd get a lot more for taking damage. But when you have rage filled, you will get access to your rage skill. Or your ultimate skill, what people call it a bunch of different things. And you can activate this by hitting Q. So if I hit Q, it activates this big ult skill, which does quite a hefty amount of damage. Especially for a breaker, which generally isn't supposed to do that much damage. A lot of breaker ultimates do actually quite a decent amount. Especially Sword ult 1, Fist ult 1 still does pretty good damage. Hammer ult 2, amazing damage. So there definitely are quite a few that do good damage. But another thing to note, well actually first let me go into bows as well just to show it off. That's ult 2, let's go to ult 1. So bows is just like a projectile, left click after you hit Q, and you'll just launch this bird. You can aim it too, so again if I hit Q I can just aim it anywhere and then I can just left click up there, and it'll send it flying up there. So that's all that stuff. And so generally a rule of thumb also, again this doesn't apply to all karmas, but it applies to basically every single one of them except 2, is if you have, most karmas, or actually all karmas have 2 ults, right? Or 2 rage skills. They have their first one that you get as soon as you unlock the karma, and then another one that you can get once you get your karma to level 3. Generally, the one that you get at level 3, or your second rage skill, are buff skills, or they're buff rage skills. These will give you a buff that will last a decent amount of time, and they will generally increase your stats in some way, shape, or form. So this is very obvious. I'll do it for sword, and I'll do it for bow. So for sword, I mean, it's quite obvious. You literally just get increased range and increased damage on all your commands, and I think your skills as well to some extent. But it does, as you can see, my range on my sword spin is a lot more than it normally is, and just all of my moves are going to deal insane range. I thought my stun hit would hit from there, but generally, again, all your moves will have a lot more range, and your commands will have a little bit more damage as well, which is nice, and all that. And this will last for like around, I think 30 seconds or something like that, so a pretty long time. Bow, ult 2 or rage skill 2. This one increases your range dramatically, so I can start comboing them from like over here, something that I don't think I would be able to do normally. Eventually there is a limit, but generally you can combo from pretty far away. Even like one of those hit from over there. These arrows generally lock on, although they don't really lock on too well, but they generally, you can kind of see it home in there. Let me see if I can get this one home in. Oh, it ran out. Let me activate it again. So even if it's not on the reticle, you can kind of see they kind of start aiming at the AI a little bit. It's not the best, but generally your commands will all lock on. Even like, so salvo will lock on generally. Doesn't do a great job, but it does lock on. And again, mainly though, you have increased range on all your commands, and then they do slightly increased break, I believe, as well. So if I like activate this, oh wait, hold up, let me activate it again. So you get slightly increased break, I think, on your commands as well, which is like kind of nice. So that is stuff to keep in mind. The only exceptions to this rage skill rule, by the way, are shield and hammer. They have 2 damaging ults, generally speaking, so they don't really have any buff ults. Hammer used to, doesn't anymore, and shield doesn't have one at all. Alright, and now we will get into rage break, a very important mechanic that everybody should know. So you will see, right, you still need to have rage, right? You need your orange aura, and if you notice, my icon is going to change once I start to get hit. So once I get broken and I start to get hit, my icon changes, right? See that? And if I hit Q when I see that icon change, right? So I see it there. If I hit Q, I can rage break. Right there. It spends all of my rage. I lost my rage, right? I don't have the aura, and my icon in the bottom shows it being reset back to 0, basically. So I expend my rage, I get a bunch of iframes, I basically get out of the combo for free. Well, not really for free, with the rage break being consumed. So I use my rage, and I get out of a combo for free. I get a couple seconds of iframes, it's probably around like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 seconds of iframes, and it basically allows me to reset neutral, reset everything, and try to, you know, get, you know, recover my resources, whatever I need to do to, you know, do whatever I need to do in battle, basically. So this is a very important move, or a very important skill or just concept to remember, because there are a lot of times where I see new players, they don't even know they can rage break when they have rage. So knowing that if you have rage and you're getting hit, obviously you have combo limit, which I'll talk about later, but if you are going to die before you hit combo limit, you can still hit Q to rage break out of a combo. Super useful and very helpful to know. And next, I want to move into some more ways of getting out of combos outside of combo limit. One is called tech rolling. So if I ever get launched by a move, so I'll have the AI do leap on me. So you see I can hit the floor like that, and I can kind of just get up normally like that. But if I left click as soon as I hit the ground, I'll actually do a tech roll. So here's me left clicking as soon as I hit the ground. So like that, I did a tech roll. And you can choose what direction you tech roll in. So I can tech roll to the right by holding D, and then I just left click. And I can do the same thing if I hold W. I'll tech roll forward, just like that. And so this is kind of a way to get out of some combos, or potentially make it harder for the enemy to combo in some cases. So it is a good thing to keep in mind, especially if you just want to try to get as far away from something. And you can also tech roll on regular get up, even if you miss the tech roll, right? So when I'm in here, if I hold D, I can just still do a roll on regular get up as well. Note, on tech roll, you do not get iframes. That might change in the near future, but as of now, you do not get iframes on tech roll. So they can still pick you up. That is something to keep in mind. Now, a more important thing to also remember, this is, again, we talked about how your dodge is your shift key, right? As you can see, it has like about a 2-second cooldown approximately. I think this one says like 1.5 or something, but it's basically 2 seconds. And this is pretty universal for all karmas. I think Scythe has a slightly increased shift cooldown, but generally all karmas have around a 2-second shift, basically. But if I'm getting hit, right? Let me switch them back to this skill. If I'm getting hit and I get broken and I shift, I get iframes, but you see, all of a sudden my shift goes on an 8-second cooldown. This is what they call like an emergency dodge or an emergency shift. You can only use this when you're getting hit while standing, by the way. If you are in the air, you cannot use an emergency dodge. But if you are on the ground and you are getting hit and you are broken, you can use an emergency dodge to get out of a combo if they're hitting, or just anything if they're hitting you and you're broken. This is really important to remember, and it can be a way to get out of combos if the enemy messes up at all and leaves you grounded. Like if you ever get hit and you end up on the ground, you can mash shift and you will get out. Like you will shift the next hit as long as it doesn't launch you. So that is something to keep in mind. It does expend the shift cooldown, or it does expand or increase the shift cooldown by quite a lot, as you can see. Again, it's 8 seconds as opposed to the normal 1.5 or 2. So that is something to keep in mind. you will be at a disadvantage here because you won't be able to shift. It'll say it's on cooldown. But it is still good to know that you can get out of combos that way. And another thing to note, right, is when you are taking damage, you will notice that you kind of have like this gray bar that shows up. Let me do a more damaging skill actually. You know what, let me use the awakening skill on sword. That'll do a lot of damage. So I kind of have this little gray bar of health. Let me have them do it again. And we'll do it one more time. Perfect. So you see this little grayish bar of health right above or to the right of my white bar? That is recoverable health. Similar to in a fighting game where if you block certain moves, you can get like recoverable health. And so how do you recover that health? Well, it's actually very easy. All you have to do is stand still, and eventually you'll crouch down, and you'll do this little animation of your healing, and you'll heal the white or the gray bar back. And now the gray bar is white. So you can get some health back by doing that. They call it natural recovery. You just do it by standing still. You don't have to do anything. You just have to stand still and let it happen. So that is something to note. Also, let's talk about combo limit real quick. So this is something that might be removed in the near future. And basically combo limit is another way you can get out of combos. You don't have to do anything particular for this. You just note that there's a number above your head. And as that number approaches 100%, you'll start to see damage scaling. Your moves will start hitting for less damage, and if you do too much damage in a short amount of time, the combo limit will turn red actually, and it'll increase even faster. The number will increase even faster. But as you can see, once it hit 100%, it was kind of like a rage break, right? Where they kind of like, you even heard the sound. They did this little like kind of animation, and they went back. Basically, they flew back. And this happens whenever you trigger combo limit at 100%. They will always fly back. They will get iframes similar to Rage Break, although they don't last quite as long. But this is another way you can get out of combos right now. Again, this is an automatic system though, and so that is something to keep in mind. There's nothing you have to do. You just hit 100% and you will get out of combo. And now let's get into some other alternative things that are very important to know. More status-based stuff. So one is called a chase attack. So remember I was talking about doing, if you do a dash and then you left click, you get this attack. This is universal for all karmas, right? And if you do a dash and you left click, you'll get this little space bar prompt on your screen, right? Same thing for bow, right? So take me a little bit to actually launch it, because again, this doesn't do break. So one more, and you can see the spacebar prompt there, right? If you do hit the spacebar prompt, you will fly up to the enemy, which is kind of where the word comes from. You chase them, basically. Chase them into the air. And when you chase them, generally you engage in the same LMBs or the same left clicks as you would if you just did regular left clicks just by jumping, right? So if I do this and I chase and I left click, I start doing the same air LMBs as the jump LMBs. So when you chase, you generally go into these, right? And this is true for basically all melee karmas. You will chase them physically by going up into the air with them. This is not true, however, for most ranged-based karmas. If I'm a range-based karma like bow, and I do left click, right click, I get the prompt, let's hit spacebar, and I hold down left click, and I get this kind of like ranged lock-on. I get this like ranged lock-on attack. Every time I hit spacebar, it locks on them, and I just hold left click, and I start shooting at them. Ranged karmas will generally have something like this, so bow, witch, and orb all have this type of chase attack where it's like a ranged one. Cannon might have it soon as well. It doesn't currently, but it might have it soon. And so anytime you do a range chase, I hit spacebar, you can do stuff like that, and I can cancel with like a skill or something like that. But it is something to know. You don't physically go up to them. You don't do your air LMBs like you would just by doing jump LMB. So those range slayers generally have a more special chase attack. That doesn't mean though that you can't chase with sword, go into the air, tab the bow, and do your air attacks like that. Like you could, but a lot of times they like to try to keep the ranged chase attack just so that they can keep their distance, right? So that is something to know about that. And also this brings me into those launching commands, right? So I did LLR on bow, that's because it goes into chase attack, right? Well, sword's LLRR also launches and goes into the chase attack, gives me the spacebar prompt, right? Same thing for bow's LRR command, where if I charge the last right click and I break them, it allows me to chase them as well. Any command that launches and gives you the spacebar prompt is basically chaseable. There are even some skills that are chaseable. If we go to Fist, right? Skill like IC or Instant Chase. Use the skill and it hits them, you get to chase them. Hit spacebar. And you get to do that. You get to do the air commands. So that is something to note. Another thing, however, another kind of status thing to keep in mind is what they call blow status, which also might be removed in the near future, but we'll see. So generally when you hit somebody, right, it deals hit stun, and there's this little like hit animation, right? They are taking damage. There are different types of hit animations, right? And I can show this with the air ones, right? So if I do a dash attack and I chase them, if I do one LMB, they kind of fall normally. They land on their feet, right? Same thing for two air LMBs. They land on their feet. But if I do the third one, it kind of leaves them in like a knockdown, right? They land on like their back, right? Like that. And you can tech roll there as well. But if I do the fourth LMB, you'll notice that I get kind of a different animation when they hit the ground. See that? They do this little like kind of twirl in the air. You can also do this, or generally the twirl attack, or blow status is what they call it, can be inflicted by any LMB at the end of a command string, right? So one LMB won't do it, two won't do it, even the sword spin itself won't do it, but the last hit of the sword spin, there it is, there's the blow status. And remember when I said you can tech on this when you hit the ground? You cannot tech on blow status. Even if your character is hitting the ground, you cannot tech there. It is similar to like a corkscrew in Tekken. You cannot like tech at all during it. So they can just pick you up again. You do not get any access to iframes there. You just get sent to this blow status and you can be picked up again. So that is something to keep in mind. And again, you can do this from sword spin. Last one. And most karmas have this as well. Ranged karmas tend to not have this, so bow doesn't really have anything that sends into blow status. Even like the last hit of this command doesn't do it. Right? You don't really have anything that does it. Generally, it's only melee karmas that have blow status, so that is something to keep in mind as well. And then let us talk about our very last thing that we'll go over here, which is tab. So you've been noticing probably, and I've been doing it a lot, if I hit tab, which you can see in my bottom left, it'll switch karmas, just like that, right? This is important to realize, because this is how you can use both karmas in a single combo, right? I can use sword, I can tab to bow in the air, and do something like that, right? Might not be optimal, but I could. You can also do a tab attack, right? So if I'm doing left clicks, you'll still see that my tab is available, right? It's green. Even when the others are red, it's still green. That's because if I hit tab, I do this little quick attack and then immediately switch karmas. But as you can see, my tab is now put on a dramatically longer cooldown, similar to using an emergency dodge. It's put on a dramatically longer cooldown than it would normally, right? If I tab, it's basically a 1-second cooldown. But if I do a tab attack, all of a sudden it's an 8-second cooldown, just like the emergency dodge. So you do have to keep that in mind. And you have to be careful about that. And generally, if you can avoid doing a hard tab in a combo, and we call it a hard tab, generally, if you can avoid that, that's a good idea. Because, for example, I could do something like this and hard tab this way, and do a combo like this. But I'm putting myself at risk because I can't tab back to sword to help me in case I need endurance or break, right? So it might be better if I just do this, hit the floor, and kind of tab to bow and do a shift attack. In that case, you can see my tab isn't on cooldown, and I can switch back to sword at any time I want, right? I can even tab attack back to sword from bow if I really needed to. So there are ways to use tab in an effective manner that doesn't put it on cooldown. Obviously, there's some case, especially if you are playing double breaker where you have 2 breakers, tab attacking doesn't really matter as much. But when it's a breaker and a slayer, it might be more risky. You might need to do it though in order to kill somebody or finish the last amount of health they have. But you do have to keep an eye out for the cooldowns and stuff like that. And that's about it. This is basically everything I think any new player needs. If you still have any questions about anything, please leave them in the comments below. I would be happy to answer you. And again, look at your command list. I'll show you that as well, just from the lobby, so you can see it on the right side as well when you go into training, right? But if you want like specifically every single command, you can open up your karma menu. For me, it's U, but I think I changed that. I think think it might be P or something like that. And any menu that opens the equipment, costumes, or karma will all lead to the same menu. And so if you click on the karmas, make sure you have this menu pop up, right? And if I want to take a look at swords, right, I can go to swords and I can see command info. And as you can see, it lists me all the commands. In fact, if I click on one, it even shows you a video of what it looks like, right? And so, especially if I go like kunais, I want to see this attack. Yeah, so it shows me like a combo. So, and of course it's glitched out, so let me close out that window. Thank you very much. So that's one way that you can check for all the commands. And again, I recommend experimenting with them. Generally, you're looking to do high damage. That's what you're looking for in your combos. And again, I hope this all helps. And again, if you have any questions, like I said before, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.